Hello, hello, my friends. It is Hondo, and welcome back to the Knights of the Nerd Republic. You know what to do, and stay profitable.
The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Hello there, and welcome back to Knights of the Nerd Republic, the first episode of Knights of the Nerd Republic of 2024. Happy New Year. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday. We're back from our little holiday break, and we have a lot to talk about today. You guys are getting KNR and a T-Nap this week. Just a little bit of housekeeping up top. I'm going to be joined by friend of the show, Bill Sheehy, to kind of do a what happened with the DCEU episode now that it is effectively over. We're going to be talking about that later this week. We're recording it on the same day. But yeah, that'll absolutely be in your feed later this week as well, probably on Friday. Or probably, actually, I lied, probably on Friday, because we're recording this same day and then we're releasing this same day. So that should give it enough of a window for both not to cannibalize each other. Also, I'm going to bring in my lovely co-host, Kason Brion.
What is up? Yo, that intro, I don't know if you watch me, but like pretty much every time we do the show.
Everybody,
every time I turn into the 2008 Jersey Shorecast, I just start fist bumping.
Every time. Dude, you have no idea. My favorite thing about being in like the host seat using StreamYard is I can see everybody fucking dance to the theme. But no, one thing I want to say, and I'll say this again later tonight. I noticed I got a notification of like a Facebook memory. I clicked on it as the theme song was playing, and then I looked down and I realized the date. Happy 4th birthday to the Nerd Academy podcast.
Oh, hell yeah. I also think me and you just hit like 6 years as friends on Facebook or something. Like yesterday or today.
Hell yeah, brother.
6 years is a long time.
It is a long time. I've known you quite a bit now.
Yeah. Wait a minute. We're going into 7. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I would say that makes more sense.
That checks out.
So anyway, we met in 2017. So
yeah.
But yeah, we have a lot to talk about today, guys. We got some incredible news. We're going to be talking about what's coming in 2024 for Star Wars. And then we have a little bit of discourse because y'all know me, still the same OG. No, I'm not going to do Forgot About Dre. But we have some discourse, and I cannot let the record. I cannot let this discourse cycle pass without putting my thoughts on the record with some of this nonsense. But first, you know, it helps the awful discourse go down. A nice Bloody Mary made with Sunday's Bloody Mary mix. You guys know the drill. Sunday's Bloody Mary has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the galaxy with their 3-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix, as well as their mild and traditional mixes if the spice isn't for you. And if you want to get your freak on and garnish that bad boy, you can use their also award-winning pickled okra, dilly beans, and asparagus, and salt that rim if you want to get freaky. You guys know what I've said a million times before, and I will say a million times again. Sunday's Bloody Mary is the only Bloody Mary mix I will touch, and I love it. I make a mean Bloody Mary from scratch, and I like Sundays more, and I am a Bloody Mary snob, my friends. So go to sundaysbloodymary.com, use the link in the description down below, and use the code TNAP, TNAP, at checkout, and get 10% off your order and help out your favorite nerds while you do it. So, Kason.
Yes.
Let me just ask you real quick before we jump in. I almost asked you what your bright spot is. I was listening to Knowledge right before we started. How were your holidays? How were your holidays, buddy?
It was pretty good. got to hang out with the family. Pretty much, I mean, that's the same thing I do every year, but like it's always nice to see everybody and get everybody together. Um, yeah, pretty much same old, same old. Just like dinner at my grandparents' house or dinner at my uncle's house, depending on which holiday it is. Um, yeah. How about
Hell
you,
yeah.
bud?
Oh, it was lovely. It was a very lovely holiday. I got to see my uncle who lives in like the metro area. He's the one I've alluded to before, who works for NPR. Um, so he and his wife, who just had a baby.
Nice.
So it was got to meet my new cousin, and I got to see my aunt and uncle for the first time in a minute, which was really nice. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was a this holiday was an all timer. It like there were more people present on Christmas morning than is normal. With my family, and it's kind of an interesting phenomena there because this was probably the last Christmas where the holiday will be capital M magic for my little sister.
Oh, I got you.
Like and I think that she has reached, and I'll say this. At no point was there ever an explicit conversation about the big guy in a red coat and a beard. You know, there was never an explicit conversation. What I'm very proud of, and proud of like the way that I was raised, is that there was this kind of like silent understanding of, while a magical fat guy may not exist, what he represents is very real. And that, if I may wax poetic here and make and talk about Santa Claus like he is Superman, that there
Talk
is
your shit.
but no, but there is that element of like it may not be real, but it is aspirational, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something that I'm very proud of my sister for, and I think that, and I think it's because like she and I do talk a lot about the stories that matter to us and what they represent. I do think that she is on the fast. I think that like she's already begun to understand that maybe this individual does not exist. However, what he represents is real, and the idea of that of the Christmas magic being born out of the community, out of seeing each other, out of spending time with each other, out of that glee that comes from, hey, I know you'd love this thing. And the magic and the love is not in the act of giving the thing, but pardon the cliche, it is the thought. It is the, I did this thing. Like, one of the things that made me very happy this year, and one of those like representatives of, it is the thought, and it is the effort, and it is the understanding of what makes your loved ones happy, was when my Nana was like, what do you want for Christmas? I was like, honestly, because I wasn't able to indulge myself this year in as many Roosevelts as I would have liked to, here are the ones I really liked that I missed. And I was like, but, and I promise I won't look at anything. Will you please use my account so I get the points? And I never looked. I kept true to my word. But when I got the notification of, you just racked up however many points, like that by itself then facilitated me to be able to then get other people presents with those points.
Right.
Like I used those points to get the Roosevelt I got my mom for Christmas. And it put me, it kept me like already ahead of the game. That by the time I had gotten your Christmas present and Spencer and Joel's, that like I'm basically right back to where I was point wise. So it's little things like that that I think do go a long way. But yeah, no, Christmas morning, like I said, my aunt, my uncle and my aunt were there, as well as the new little one. My granddad was there, and this is the first Christmas day where the significant others were present.
Ooh.
So Taylor was there with us. My brother's girlfriend was there. It was a lovely holiday. Like
I love
like
that
I
for you,
said,
bud.
it felt, and despite the fact that there were more people present on the day, it was just really low key and just really chill. And like it this was a very special Christmas. I don't know what was in the air. I can't quantify it. I can't like I'll never be able to put it in a bottle, but I can't qualify it. I can't quantify it. It was a very good holiday and one that I needed very much. And yeah, it was very happy. It was very much a good recharge for me coming into 2024. Um so yeah, without much further ado, um Kason, we got huge news yesterday. We were going
Yes.
to record this yesterday. I got out of work a little bit later than I anticipated, and I just did not have a session in me. And luckily, we were both off today, so we were able to do a session midday for a same day release of the episode. Um, we got incredible news. So I'm going to read directly from this article from StarWars.com. The Mandalorian and Grogu journeys to the big screen. The Mandalorian and Grogu are embarking on a new adventure to movie theaters. Directed by Jon Favreau and produced by Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, and Dave Filoni, The Mandalorian and Grogu will go into production in 2024. Quote, I have loved telling stories set in the rich world that George Lucas created, said Favreau. The prospect of bringing The Mandalorian and his apprentice Grogu to the big screen is extremely exciting. That was a quote from Jon Favreau. Another quote: Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have ushered into Star Wars two new and beloved characters, and this new story is a perfect fit for the big screen, added Kathleen Kennedy, president of Lucasfilm. The Mandalorian and Grogu will lead Lucasfilm's ongoing feature development slate, including films filmed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, James Mangold, and Dave Filoni, who is currently developing Ahsoka Season 2 among those in the works. This is the way. So before we dive into the big kahuna here, something that I missed this when I initially read the article, something that I think is very interesting. Because I was talking in the group chat I'm in with a handful of other Star Wars podcasters and YouTubers. And then I was like, I wonder if this is now the Dave Filoni movie. Because I guess again, like I misread this article. I was like so excited. I was like shaking with excitement. I feel like I had kind of just read Jon Favreau and assumed that meant Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, you know,
Yeah.
and assumed that like this was like the Dave Filoni Mando movie and that it was getting kind of like bumped up in the slate. But then you go back and you read this last bit. The Mandalorian and Grogu will lead Lucasfilm's feature development slate, including films helmed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, James Mangold, and Dave Filoni. So now we have 4 Star Wars movies. Now we have 4 grand total. So we have The Mandalorian and Grogu, the Rey Skywalker New Jedi Order movie, James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie, and then the Dave Filoni movie that is meant to kind of put a bow on the Mandoverse. So we have 4 movies, and then this is also a very sneaky, hey, it kind of went without saying, but we have official confirmation now. Ahsoka Season 2 is in development. So incredible stuff here on that front, but let's talk about the star of this story here. Kason, how are you feeling, bud? We're getting a movie about Mando and Grogu. Just a straight up Mando and Grogu movie. A straight up Mando and Grogu movie.
I'm pretty hype. I do think that part of it is because of the strikes. Like at least that's what I'm assuming. I'm assuming they're doing a movie because of the strikes. But I do think, I don't know. I think that it's like when we leave Mando and Grogu, the armor's like, hey, you got to go take him out and go do shit with him, and teach him the ways of Mandalore, basically. And then he immediately talks to Carson Tev, and Carson Tev is like, I could probably find some work for you guys. Which like set it up to be a really cool adventure of the week, like just different planets all the time, and like basically just bebop and adventuring through the galaxy, which I think would be very cool as a series. But I mean, like you could also do it in a movie because like, that's basically what the Star Wars movies are.
I will say an additional bit of reporting that might color what you're saying here, because this kind of got lost in the shuffle of, oh my God, Mando and Grogu movie.
Yeah.
Deadline is reporting that The Mandalorian season 4 is still set to proceed as planned.
Oh,
And I
really?
know
I
that,
didn't see
and I
that.
know there were rumors floating around like a month or so ago. It kind of got lost in the shuffle for us because we were busy with holiday time, and I was working on getting the Star Wars holiday special episode set up and everything. That like there were rumors that Mando season 4 would be turned into a movie.
Yeah.
And that it was and that what we were on the precipice of was that season 4, which Jon Favreau said leading into season 3 had already been written. That it was like, in the chamber, ready to go. And now it's going through this metamorphosis into a film. The current reporting from Deadline, which I'm inclined to believe, says that apparently The Mandalorian and Grogu is a movie that is happening, and The Mandalorian season 4 is still its own thing. Is how I
Okay.
understand that. Now, again, they could just be saying they're still planning on making a Mando season 4, and maybe this movie is an adaptation. I don't know. I don't think we'll ever really know the inside baseball there until some more people get to talk about it.
Yeah.
But as of now, as I am understanding it, it is Mando season 1, Mando season 2, Book of Boba Fett, The Mandalorian season 3, Ahsoka. This year we'll be getting Skeleton Crew, The Mandalorian and Grogu, and then either season 4 or Ahsoka 2, or please God, please Book of Boba Fett season 2. I'm begging the universe. We need Book of Boba Fett season 2. Speaking of Book of Boba Fett season 2, real quick, plug friend of the show, Eli, Star Wars in a Galaxy. He is basically not re-uploading, but uploading a lot of their back catalog to their YouTube channel, where you can find like epic confrontations and their live streams. So that's happening. But Eli did upload like a standalone video of like his pitch for Boba season 2, which was really good. I recommend everybody go watch it. I'll try to make sure I put it in the description. But go watch that when you're done here. It was very good. I love his pitch. I love his idea. It was very good. It was funny because he and I were talking about how I'm waiting until I have like a full studio to record it. But how I have a pitch for Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2 and what I would do with that. And we were talking about it. He's like, I really want to do one of these. And I was like, fucking do it, man. And it turned out great. Everybody go watch it. But yeah, so we're still, again, according to this reporting, getting season 4, which is incredibly exciting that like all of these things are still existing as one thing, or in different forms for one narrative.
That makes me wonder if they're gonna do a time skip. We get like a little bit grown up Grogu. Grown goo.
Grown goo. I'm also curious about that. I truly don't know what to expect. And I think that is the thing that I'm the most excited about.
Because like depending on, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like going back to Celebration when they announced all these movies, is that they were announced as a vague premise. That like the Rey New Jedi Order movie, you were like, okay, it's about Rey rebuilding the Jedi 15 years after the rise of Skywalker.
Right.
Sick.
Thank you, Kanye.
Don't know exactly what that means, but I have an idea of what that could entail. Dawn of the Jedi movie. Again, I don't know what that means other than it is the beginning of the Jedi religion, and that James Mangold described it as a biblical epic. I don't know what all that will entail, but I understand the vibe of it. The Dave Filoni movie, we get a better idea. They're like, oh, it's going to be kind of like the grand conclusion to like the Mandoverse. Sick. I don't know what all that will entail, but I can only imagine this is like the last stand of Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Right.
The Mandalorian and Grogu movie, no idea.
Not a clue.
Not a fucking shadow of an idea as to what this could be. But
Which
that
I think,
vagary excites me.
yeah, yeah, especially because like I said, I'm like wondering about the time skip thing, and like it's gonna depend on what is scheduled to release. Because if they're starting production on the movie this year, I guess they haven't started production on Mando season 4 yet either. Then I guess because of the strikes and everything.
Well, from what I understand, like I said, Favreau said it was
Like it's
written.
already written, it's in the chamber, but like they haven't actually started like
They have not started
making it.
principal photography or anything like that.
Okay, yeah,
So Mando season 4 is probably a ways away now.
okay,
However, the questions I am like really fascinated by with this is that like you have this huge opus, like you're like what is there going to be a time skip involved? How much of a time skip? Like, is the time skip going to pick up in the movie? There's a lot of room to play
right,
within the timeline. Like we have 35 years to play with.
right,
Now you don't want the Imperial Remnant to be kicking around for the entirety of this era of peace. We already, I don't want to be that guy and say, like, well, the retconning things are not, but like we've already given the Empire kind of a grace period to keep existing as antagonists
yeah,
because the Battle of Jakku was supposed to be the end. And Mando
right.
picks up 5 years after Jakku,
And it's like, oh, they're
you
still
know,
kind of there.
still kind of there. So I don't think you want the Mandalorian, or I'm sorry, I don't think you want the Imperial Remnant to be around for too much longer. But yeah, it's very interesting. I'm very curious again to understand the timeline of everything. Um, but yeah, no, with it going into production this year, I think that means that a good bit of pre-production's already happened for this. Again, like the art that has accompanied this announcement everywhere. This is concept
Yeah,
art from the movie. They said like with concept art. So like at the very least, the concept art phase has either concluded or is near concluding. Now, again, I'm not in the industry. I'm not going to be like a lot of people who like to pretend they understand how all of this works. I don't. I'm not a fly in that wall. I'm not going to pretend to have information that I don't. However, if we're seeing things like this, I think we're on the cusp of principal photography starting. And if they're going to begin this year, and again, like I just think it's worth mentioning. They said they're going into production this year in January, which leaves a lot of room to get a lot done, which could mean we are looking at a 2025 release date,
that'd be insane.
which I think is likely considering they can now make Celebration 25 in Tokyo like a Star Wars movie celebration, which we've not had in 5 years,
Oh, yeah.
6 years by that point. That they can like debut what could be like a final trailer or god a teaser trailer
Yeah.
for the Mandalorian and Grogu in Tokyo.
That would be wild.
Like I think that what we are likely going to see here is production go through the 2024 calendar year, or at least happen within the calendar year, and then post production happen through 25 with a holiday 25 release date. Because again, I know Star Wars made its start as a May release movie. It was always the beginning of the summer. But the Disney era, man, I miss seeing a
All
Star
Christmas,
Wars at
baby.
Christmas time. I miss seeing a Star Wars at Christmas time. It that changed my brain chemistry in 2015, and I wanted to stay like that forever. Um,
Yeah.
so, and I think that'd be great. That like the next era of Star Wars movies begins 10 years after the last one started, which is not that dissimilar to how like each era of Star Wars movies has happened.
Yeah.
You got the original trilogy wrapped up in 83, and then, 99, a little over a decade, we start over again. You know, it was 10 years between Revenge of the Sith and The Force Awakens. So like I don't necessarily want to wait 10 years between each new era of Star Wars cinema. But I do
Not a
think there's
bad
also
pace.
no, it's not a bad pace, and a lot has happened between those 10 years,
Yeah.
in all mediums. But I think that there's a fascinating, way to like really narrativize and build up the return of Star Wars to the cinema. Yeah, this is very exciting stuff. Kason, if I may ask, who, if you got like, who are you hoping you get to see in this movie?
In the Mando and Grogu movie,
Absolutely, yeah.
dude, I don't even know because like I don't know who when it's gonna be. I mean, like it'd be cool if they cross paths with like some of the Resistance or something.
Like the
Like
beginnings
that's
of, yeah.
yeah. Um, like yeah, like I don't even know who else would even be like
I'll say
available.
I'll say this. I really hope this is we get to pick back up with Boba and Fennec.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
That's a big one for me. I
Yeah,
really do hope that we get to pick back up seeing what
the
the
Bounty Hunter
daimyo of
Suicide
Mos
Squad
Espa.
is sick.
Huh?
The Bounty Hunter Suicide Squad is sick.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
so dope.
Fucking Task Force X-Wing.
Oh yeah, I hope we get something on Cobb Vanth too. Somewhere. I think that would be very cool. Either in the movie or in season 4 or wherever that comes, or even if they do Boba season 2.
Boba Fett season 2. Yeah, I'm so excited for this. I'm it's weird that like not weird in a good way that this is happening. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, because again, the whole like Mandoverse movie, like, you know, it does. I hate whenever people just like kind of like offhandedly compare anything with an interconnected story to Marvel. You know, but it can be a convenient shorthand where
Yeah.
like Mando is like the Iron Man here. You know, he is like he is like our focal point because the story started with him.
Yeah.
But the thing that excites
He's
me is
become
that
a
like
catalyst for everything else.
he's become a catalyst for everything, and he's like Din Djarin has like bumblefucked his way into being like a considerable figure in the history of the galaxy.
Yeah.
Again, this guy who's never seen Star Wars is very important to it now. What's a Jedi? The thing that excites me the most about this is that I'm happy that we kind of get to have our cake and eat it too. Din Djarin does not have much of a personal um relationship and rivalry with Grand Admiral Thrawn,
Yeah.
who is by all accounts and is most likely going to be the villain of the Dave Filoni Mandoverse movie. So I've always kind of worried that Din would kind of, I don't want to say get overshadowed or be, backseat, whatever. Any of those stupid fucking talking points we hear all the time. There's a woman in a TV show. But I was worried that he wouldn't get as much time in the sun as a character because the villain narrative is more to do with Harrison Dilla and Sabine Wren and Ahsoka. Giving Din and Grogu their own movie not only allows Din to fully get a silver screen time in the sun, but also now means that you can begin to lay the groundwork for whatever he does get in that movie to have more of a payoff because more you can fill out his personal vendetta against the Imperial Remnant beyond Moff Gideon keeps kidnapping my baby.
My baby.
My baby. But yeah, man, like I said, there's not a whole lot to chew on here. Other than just reiterating that we are beyond excited. You know, I said on Twitter, when the Mandalorian was announced, I was excited for an era of live action Star Wars television.
Yes.
However, never been that into Mandalorian culture. I'm hit or miss with, for fuck's sake. So a moment ago, for those of you at home, I'm gonna throw a fucking brick through a window. My dog started barking at the mailman. Thank God. And then immediately, so we paused and went to check on her. So it was just the mailman. I was like, stop reinforcing negative stereotypes. And then the moment I started speaking again, the neighbor's car alarm went off, and then the dog lost her shit again. But everyone's calmed down now. Holy God. But no, I was like, I've never been super into Mandalorian culture. It's one of those things like, oh, it's cool, but it's not my Star Wars cup of tea. I'm a Jedi. I'm a Sith guy. I'm into that stuff.
Yeah.
And I can kind of take or leave criminal underworld stuff. I like when the criminal underworld is, present. I like when it plays a role, but I'm like, I don't need to dive headfirst into it. 5 years later, Din Djarin and Grogu are two of my favorite Star Wars characters, period. I cannot watch this show. I cannot watch specific episodes of this show without weeping uncontrollably. I warned my girlfriend. I sent her the news. I was like, I am so sorry that our first new Star Wars movie together is probably going to involve more crying than we anticipated. Because I'm gonna cry when I see a new Star Wars in the movie theater. Like
Yeah.
I joked about it.
Have to.
I cried at a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away when we saw a movie I've seen more times than I can count when we went to see the 40th anniversary of Jedi.
Yeah.
So God help us all that it's going to be Din and Grogu on the big screen.
God help us all when I see that 2-foot alien baby on the big
God
screen.
help us all when I see that little green fuck who I'd do anything for. But yeah, I just this show did a lot for me as a Star Wars fan, and it really did teach me to like be more open to Star Wars storytelling in a way that I was like, oh yeah, like I'll like it because it's Star Wars and I'll see it because it's Star Wars, but this isn't the Star Wars I grasp onto. And then I very quickly had this really fun rude awakening where I was like, no, you're more invested in this than you ever thought you could be. And the Mandalorian holds a very special place in my heart, as it does you. It holds a very special place on your arm.
Yeah.
So well, we were very excited for the Mandalorian and Grogu around these parts.
Yes.
I just
Super
wish.
I hope we get to see a mythosaur.
Oh man, who knows what to expect? And that's the other fun thing. So much of the cast of The Mandalorian are like character actors or like dedicated TV actors that like this isn't me saying they shouldn't be paid what they're worth, especially knowing the fucking assload of money this movie's gonna make.
Yeah.
But aside from Pedro, it's not like Katie Sackhoff, Emily Swallow, Timothy Oliphant, Tamora Morrison. It's not like trying to make Avengers Endgame after you've built a cinematic franchise around these actors, and like now the cost benefit analysis gets weird because it's like, well, how do we make a movie that makes this absurd amount at the box office when every single one of our leads cost like an indie film to make.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like that's not there. So like they can really do something special with this. And I'm
And the
so
other thing
excited to see what
too,
happens.
the other thing too is like even with Pedro, like Pedro, unless he's taking the helmet off again, doesn't even actually have to be there. He can just do the voice lines, and Brendan Wayne can just be Mando basically.
Yeah.
So like
And
they could also 100% go that route and just be like, hey, can you just do the voice lines for us?
Brendan Wayne. Oh, what's the name of the other actor? Just as I want to make sure we get them both. Is it like Lateef Crowder?
Maybe.
Something like that. Mando body actors. Lateef Crowder.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, like, but you're right. Like, it could be Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder for like most of this movie, and again, this weird like hostility towards Pedro and the show for him not being like in the suit for every episode, I think is just deeply silly.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be there. Like it doesn't have to. Like you like the original
Like,
Star Wars, right?
that was
It's
not
not
James
James
Earl
Earl Jones in a
Jones.
suit.
Like, we're even to take it a step further. You do realize Benedict Cumberbatch, when you see Doctor Strange, 99% of the time, that's not Benedict Cumberbatch in Infinity War, right?
I didn't know that, but
That's his body double.
That's fine.
That's his fucking body double. For most of those shots you see Strange, unless you see Stephen Strange's whole face,
Yeah,
that is not Benedict Cumberbatch.
that's great.
Just saying.
I mean, that's how the industry works, especially when they have a million projects going on at once.
Yeah, like Pedro.
Yeah. But dude, Pedro's like literally doing everything. I love it.
Yeah. And here's another factor that I think is interesting that, might affect the main show around here. I wonder what this means for Fantastic Four. Because allegedly
Oh,
Pedro's
he's
like
supposed to be Mr. Fantastic, isn't he?
he's circling the waters apparently to like sign the dotted line to play Reed Richards.
Okay.
So we'll see how that affects things. But again, it's also all in the same production. So
I was gonna say I don't remember what the dude's name is from the Fantastic Four movie from like 2006 or whatever that was.
Jan Rutherford.
Yes.
Or
He
Grufford,
was
I think.
he was very good.
Oh,
Very
I
good
love
Reed
his read.
Richards.
I love his read.
Yeah. His read's very good.
But yeah, moving on from one thing we're heavily anticipating that might be coming out next year. I hope next year. Let's talk Star Wars in 2024.
Yeah.
Kason, what Star Wars project are you most excited for this year?
I don't know. I think the Acolyte.
Same.
I think the Acolyte.
Same on the Acolyte.
I'm also pretty hyped for Bad Batch Season 3 because I'm not 100% sure if Tech's dead. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm gonna have to walk a lot of jokes back if Tech is alive.
Yeah, I know.
Kason's like, that's part of my calculus. I'm aware.
I was here. Yeah, I was here. I was like, there's no way that he's dead. You were like, haha, fuck that guy anyway.
Hey, man, they made me care about Tech just long enough to kill him off.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I was like, wow, like, I don't want to bash my head in every time Tech speaks now. Well, there he goes.
And it's gone.
And he's still going. And he's still going.
Yep.
Oh, he hit something, but he's still going. Okay, there he is. But no. No, I'm incredibly excited for the Acolyte. You've not broached the High Republic yet,
No,
have you?
I have not.
My brother in Christ, you can use my Audible. This shit is amazing.
All right.
Like Jedi Knights of the Round Table with a healthy scoop of like proper sci-fi. Like the thing that I think is the most impressive about the High Republic is that it is the most it is like heavy sci-fi while being the most Arthurian in terms of its legends.
Okay. Gets more like the fantastical element in there.
You get a lot of the fantastical stuff with the Jedi with a healthy like side plate of like sci-fi stuff. Like lots of stuff with hyperspace and the tech that's in play. And I haven't experienced a lot of phase 2 because the way it goes is like phase 1 is like 200 years before the Phantom Menace. So you go through that story and then you jump back another 200 years to like the beginning of the High Republic era. And like it's very like space prospector. We're finding new regions and we're experimenting with the advent of hyperspace technology and a lot of that stuff. And then
Okay.
phase 3 brings us back to a year after phase 1. Um, very, very interesting stuff. Very, very, very powerful character driven stories. Now, granted, a whole lot of that will probably not factor into the Acolyte because the Acolyte is like at the end of the High Republic era. So, like, we know there's going to be at least one character from this era who appears in the show, or from the publishing initiative that appears in the
Okay.
show, is Jedi Vernestra Rowe. Naya got excited to hear about Vernestra Rowe. So like we know she's going to be in the show. I don't know how many others. Like there's a couple Wookiee Jedi around, namely one of the main characters, Buryaga. So he very well might be in the show as well. I know that there were set photos that showed a Wookiee Jedi. Whether or not that is Buryaga as like a Jedi Master now or not is to be seen. But yeah, lots of. I'm very, very excited for the Acolyte. You know, I'm excited for with Ahsoka. I was so excited for the Ahsoka show, and for Obi-Wan Kenobi as well, because it was like, okay, cool. Like I really enjoyed these like scoundrel, people who are who are influenced by the Force, and how like the story of the battle between the light side and the dark side, they're affected by it and they're on the periphery of it. But we're not dealing with like a story of Jedi and Sith. Obi-Wan Kenobi was great because we got to deal with, the general public, the fandom at large, their favorite Jedi and Sith and their like ongoing rivalry. Ahsoka was cool because it was a story very much about the Force and about the aftermath of the Jedi. The Acolyte, I think, is the show I've been waiting for just to see a story about Jedi. Period. Not about the Jedi, not about what does it mean now that they're gone, not about, the order is in ruins and we're living through the trauma. And that's not to discount those things. Ahsoka and Obi-Wan Kenobi are two of my favorite Star Wars projects.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to see a show about the Jedi Order.
Yes.
In its prime, especially with the implications that it will have something to do with the Sith as well. I've said for a while that I think the Acolyte is very much going to be our peek into what the Rule of Two Sith were doing in this time. And that's something I very much wanted to see because pardon me if I'm a little too on brand here, the grand conspiracy of the Rule of Two Sith, and all the pots they had their fingers in to facilitate the downfall of the Republic and to help institute the neoliberal capitalist hellscape that is the Galactic Republic. I want to see how that happens, and I want to see what they had to do with it. Because that mystery is very fascinating to me. But as you had said, we're going to get the last season of the Bad Batch allegedly this year. Again, we don't know how much of these shows that were slated for 2024 are going to make it. Again, that is because of the strikes. And again, that is not the fault of the striking workers. That is, that rests solely on the shoulders of the studios who unnecessarily made this strike last as long as it did.
Yes.
That said, right now, I believe the projection for Bad Batch, I think we're definitely getting this year. Jennifer Corbett was talking about how, she posted a picture celebrating their last mixing session some time ago. She was like teasing people with the idea of a trailer coming soon the other day on Twitter. So I think Bad Batch season 3, I think we're getting the end of that story this year, undoubtedly. We also have Skeleton Crew, which allegedly is now looking at a holiday release, which again, give me Star Wars at Christmas time.
Yeah.
I think that's a very exciting prospect. If for no other reason, than I think a show that has been described as like a Steven Spielberg like Amblin project meets Star Wars, like an ET or the Goonies type vibe. That at holiday time is going to hit, and it's going to hit hard. I think
Yeah.
it's going to be fantastic. Again, we don't know much about Skeleton Crew other than that's kind of the basic premise is these kids made their way onto the wrong side of the galaxy and now they got to get home. Alex Damon made a joke in his video, Star Wars coming in 2024, where he like offhandedly made a joke about like if you build this story around Life Day, you have a slam dunk. That
Oh
it's
yeah,
these
yeah,
kids
yeah.
for Life Day.
Their own version of the holiday special.
Yeah. Truly bring it full circle. Another one that I'm excited for that we know next to nothing about is that we're allegedly supposed to be getting Tales of the Jedi season 2.
Yes. I'm very, very hyped about that. Very, very hyped about Tales of the Jedi season 2. Tales of the Jedi was really good. It really did a lot for me when it came out. I was like, oh, this should be pretty cool. And then I started watching it and I was like, oh, this is really good.
I liked Tales of the Jedi a lot. I've not made it any secret that I did not much care for the Ahsoka episodes.
Really?
I felt like they were kind of superfluous. I don't think they had anywhere near as much meat on the bone as the Dooku stuff. Like,
I mean, that's
I
fair.
I think the Dooku stuff. Now, again, part of that I think is because we're dealing with a character whose origins are still largely shrouded in mystery. Like we have a whole book about Dooku leaving the Order, and we still don't know like much about when he became a Sith, how he became a Sith, at what point did he consider himself a Lord of the Sith. Like we still don't know so much about Dooku, and it was juxtaposed with what felt like a lot of superfluous stuff about Ahsoka. Like there was this like again I think the first one about her as a baby and that was she like that Dave Filoni quote, was she brave, was she using the Force, aren't they just the same thing? That's cool, I like
Right.
that. um Again, not to denigrate it, but like everybody figured out what the second chapter was about from the trailers. Everybody pointed out, oh, look, Ahsoka did that specific flip she does in the Clone Wars to block the blaster bolts. And then she did that. So she survived Order 66. And it's because of this training she got from Anakin. And and I thought it was like, oh, that's a cool detail. I'm sure that'll play a bit bigger part in the episode. And then that's literally the whole episode. That's just the point of the episode.
Yeah.
That is the main thrust of the episode. So we had like, oh, really cool story about baby Ahsoka and like the nature of the living force. Cool as hell.
Agreed.
We all figured out everything that was happening in that second episode from the trailers. So we saw that episode in the trailers. And then the third episode just kind of felt like a messy like retelling of the Ahsoka novel.
I got you.
Meanwhile, we're getting all this stuff
Yeah.
with like, and again, all the Dooku stuff is so rich with these ideas of, the way that the way that people who fight against a corrupt system, sometimes they get so venomous and angry at that system that they like kind of just take their ball and go home and build an equally corrupt system. You get all of these ideas of, what does duty mean? What is justice? When you're the Jedi, are you the arm of the Republic or do you represent the people? Are you the arm of the Senate or do you represent the people of the Republic?
Yeah.
Where do you fall on this spectrum? And then, with the Sith Lord, you get like, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. And you see that Dooku has lost his soul and you get to see, I just feel like there's a lot more meat on the bone with the Dooku stuff. And there is a part of me that would be willing to trade baby Ahsoka for just 6 episodes of Dooku.
That's fair.
But again, I do think there is. I'm willing to see. I'm so excited to see what they tackle for season 2. You know, I am very much in the camp of wanting to see Luke's Jedi Order explored.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was actually Daniel Sotier, Bombad Daniel on Twitter, who was talking about how it could be a really cool parallel to have like the journey of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan as master and apprentice, and like some of their like um foundation setting stories be juxtaposed with like Luke and Ben. That in many ways, like it is the beginning and the end of that teacher student lineage of not the end because obviously Luke will go on to train Rey. Well, he and Leia will go on to train Rey. But that you get like, you know, Qui-Gon who passes it to Obi-Wan, who passes it to Anakin. You get like this whole like the Skywalker lineage of the Jedi. It's a lot of that is packed in there. I think that would be very fascinating. Very again, very intrigued to see what they do with Tales of the Jedi season 2. I just hope that the Ahsoka stuff, or that we don't get a repeat of the Ahsoka stuff, where you have one batch of episodes that is deeply fascinating and feels like a lot more. It feels like it has more to say, and I hate saying shit like that, but I can't think of a better way to phrase it. But one that has more going on as opposed to, hey, here's how Ahsoka learned to do that flip. Do a flip, and then you get, you know, oh hey, here's an Inquisitor that Ahsoka like beats up in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I want to know more about that Inquisitor.
Why he deflated?
Yeah, that would be nice to know. Like, what's I don't know. I feel like that's something that they should be like, hey, by the way, this happened.
But yeah, so sorry.
No, you're good. That was it.
No, I was to say we have that on the horizon. We also, I'm trying to make sure we're not skipping any shows. But we also have Star Wars Outlaws on the horizon.
Yes. I'm actually pretty excited about that. I think my plan is to get a PS5 sometime soon, so I can play Outlaws and get back into playing Madden.
Oh man, you started off so high for me, and then
yeah, I've been a Madden kid since I was like.
Oh, I know. There's no way. I was like, I'm not even going to pretend that surprises me. I just would bust your balls about it. But no, Outlaw seems really fun. I mean, I'm again very much looking forward to what's happening there. Again, allegedly it's slated for a March release. But there are reports that Ubisoft was like talking about moving one of their big releases to like the next fiscal year, which would still include 2024. But like, you know, is that Assassin's Creed? Half. Yeah, but like, is that like the Japanese Assassin's Creed game? You know, is it another one of their projects, or is it Outlaws? You know, so to be determined. I'm pumped. You know, I remember seeing that trailer, and as the Last Jedi defender that I am and will die on that hill. I was very excited to get the idea that we get to go to Cantonica as like a scoundrel.
Yeah.
Like Canto Bite Ocean's 11 is screaming my name. And that is something I'm very much looking forward to. You know, I can't wait to see how like the Syndicate stuff will play. This is the first time I think I've been excited about a game that I know I can go to Tatooine. This is the first time I've been excited to go to Tatooine in a video game.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not here to do the Star Wars has a Tatooine problem. It's like, what the fuck does that even mean? But I also like, I can take or leave Tatooine. You know?
Being on the other side of it's cool though. Like being on the side of like the scoundrel.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'm in a different light will be very cool.
Getting to do Tatooine in the driver's seat as a scoundrel.
Right.
That is very exciting.
Everybody else does Tatooine.
The way exactly. Like I don't want to have to go to Tatooine knowing, okay, there's gonna be scoundrels, there's gonna be shitheads, here's some Tusken Raiders, blah, 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 that like I want to get to do that shit.
Yeah.
I don't want to just have to deal with crime lords in a narrative. I want to have to deal with the crime lords. I don't want to have to watch people do it. I don't have to be in the same room as them. I want to go do odd jobs for Jabba, who will be a mission giver apparently, which we've heard recently. So yeah, I'm pumped for Acolyte. I'm pumped for Outlaws. I think those are my two big ones. Again, we don't know anything about Tales of the Jedi, but I'm sure Tales of the Jedi is going to be right behind Acolyte. Once we know who or what it will be covering. Other quick things.
Yes.
We get the end of the High Republic this year, which I'm bittersweet excited for. I'm curious to see how this story ends, but I don't want it to. We're getting lots of comics. I'm going to be getting caught up on the comics this year. A number of novels, as is usually the case, and then it's all gonna wrap up at the end of this year with Temptation of the Force, which is just it's unbelievable. Like I said, I'm not gonna wax poetic too much about the High Republic because I really do want Kason to experience those stories firsthand. The first time, here's what I will say. I had my brain chemistry as a Star Wars fan permanently changed the first time we meet Avar Kriss.
Gotcha.
And I'm not even going to describe that moment. But once you get to it in Light of the Jedi, you're going to get it. You're going to get it. And then you're going to be in forever.
That's it. You're locked in.
Oh, yeah. That's it. Forever. But we will be getting that. We're also going to be getting what I think might be my most anticipated Star Wars book of 2024. John Jackson Miller's The Living Force.
Yes.
The Jedi Council book, which I can't believe I get to say. Like it's shit like that I miss about Legends. It is the ability to just be like, hey, here's a book about an adventure the entire Jedi Council went on.
Yeah.
That is my shit. And speaking of my shit in Star Wars publishing, we're also getting a book about Mace Windu. We're also getting a Mace Windu comic miniseries again.
Hell yeah.
I'm getting all the Mace shit, dude. I'm getting all
So, do we think that we're ever gonna get a Mace survived? Do you think we will, and do you want that?
I'm gonna be real with you.
Yeah.
I once had this conversation. I think we had this conversation back in the day when we both worked for Journeys together.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure we have before.
Where I told you, I was like, here is my idea. I'm gonna sound like the person I love making fun of so much real quick.
It's from my script.
Yeah. I told you 1,000 years ago, if you ever tell a story where it turns out Mace is alive, you have it be for him to face Vader.
Yeah.
And that there is a lot you could do with having Mace fall from grace and have him either be in a darker place or have more resolve. There's a lot you can do with Mace. You can make him into this militant. You can have him be, way more in tune than he already was with the living force and be, more of a guardian and a protector and make Vader have to face down the fact that the guy that he maligned so much kept closer to the code than he ever could. I think it's an incredible matchup to get to put to screen or paper, however you do it. I've always said if you do Mace Windu Lives, he has to be going toe to toe with Vader. And then like a year later, fucking theory starts making Neotos. I refuse to call this fucking man theory all the time. Neotos makes his fucking fan film. And again, I say that I want to put one thing on the record, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I just want to make it clear. I used to be a big fan of Star Wars theory. I used to like this guy's work a lot. And I fell out of love with his work. And then his fan series became a thing. And I was like, you know what? I don't agree with this guy a lot on Star Wars. I think that he misses the point a lot. But a fan film, a fan creation to this scale should be celebrated. So back in the day when I still worked for what is now called Project Louder, when I worked for Dewback Discussion and I was hosting that show and I was writing articles, I interviewed the guy who played fucking Vader in the fan film. You know, I was a very loud supporter of its existence. Did I love it? No. But like, I was like, it is good that this exists. And it's impressive that this exists. And I championed it a lot. And I was also very excited about it because I was like, oh, I said the same thing. So cool. It's going to be a whole thing about, you know, Mason Vader. Flash forward to now. I'm not going to pretend I didn't do that reporting, but it was a waste of my fucking time. Dupree, the guy who plays Vader, Darth Hater 23 on Instagram. He's an amazing cosplayer, member of the 501st. Dupree's a good dude. I like him a lot. You know, he's a damn good Vader, damn good Boba Fett, damn good Jango Fett. There's all this stuff. He's wonderful. That if I were to ever get maced, that's how I want it, to answer your question.
Yeah.
But it's never going to happen. Again, if we find out Mace is alive in some capacity and he shows up somewhere, cool. I'd love it. But my like dream idea for a Mace Windu somehow returned story is never going to happen now.
Yeah.
I mean, unless Lucasfilm is willing to do some really funny shit.
Like what?
Like do what he did but better.
Yeah. I mean, they have the budget.
Well, I mean, they have the budget, but like it's
They could.
I mean, listen, the guy went,
do
hey,
whatever.
this character is in water. This character is experiencing like a ubiquitous metaphor for rebirth. That's from my script. They stole from me personally. I can only imagine how he
Baptized.
reacted.
It's from my script.
Yeah. Oh my God. The baptismal waters resurrected a character. Oh my God. I can't believe they stole this very original idea I had. That they did in the Rise of Skywalker. Who wrote the Bible? Jesus theory. Old Testament theory. But yeah, dude, I think 2024 is going to be a big year for Star Wars, and I cannot wait to see how it all plays out. You know, the Acolyte is going to be a game changer. You know, it's our first story that isn't like in the immediate timeline of the Skywalker saga, which is something I hadn't thought of because you've had a lot of stories that aren't in the Skywalker saga that aren't like required reading, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But are in the timeline and are therefore affected by those events. I love the fact that like the Acolyte is the first time we're going to see it. You know, and you could argue that like even the Rey movie is technically part of the Skywalker saga.
Yeah, I mean, if she's Rey Skywalker, then like,
I mean, if she's Rey Skywalker, but like what she's doing is like not in immediate because it's 15 years, but like it is like a direct ramification of the events of that story.
yeah.
Whereas like the Acolyte is what will be laying the groundwork for it. You know, same with like the Tales or not Tales of the Jedi, but the Dawn of the Jedi story, you know, that like here's everything that happened before. So yeah, very, very, very exciting stuff. No, it's not exciting.
What's that?
Disinformation.
Yeah.
Folks,
all right.
I'm fucking annoyed. Listen, I think there is a level.
Obaid-Chinoy.
What'd you say?
I'm Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. I didn't know it was gonna get that good of a pop out of you.
I didn't either. You said it, and it was one of those like it gestated in my brain for a minute.
And then you're like, oh, that was all right. Yeah, that was good.
All right, let's
Let's
talk
talk
about
about it.
some shit. Let's talk about some shit. Um, the past week or so has been dominated by a very specific flavor of stupid ass discourse. And now the discourse is almost always buttfuck stupid. It's almost always dominated by shitty talking points, thinly veiled bigotry, people who claim to know things they do not, speaking out of turn. You know, oh, they put such and such in the back seat. This person's a Mary Sue. You know, a lot of the time it's like, okay, you're objectively wrong. And again, I just want to make one thing abundantly clear. You don't have to like the new stuff. I know people who don't. I know people who don't and aren't fucking weirdos about it. It's fine. I don't care if you don't like The Last Jedi. You're allowed to.
Yeah.
What you're not allowed to do is be objectively fucking wrong this loudly with this many people watching and retreat into a little hole when people come for your neck about it. And Kason did a very fun little thematic segue there by goading me into talking about Mace Windu surviving so Star Wars Theory would come up. You're not slick.
I honestly, I didn't do that intentionally.
You know what fascinates me with Star Wars Theory, Neotos, that is weird. I've often compared him to the fandom version of Joe Rogan. And what I mean by that is that we've watched him do either one of two things. We've either watched his very privileged place of, well, I just want to hear what everybody has to say. Now, by everybody, he means the people that society has deemed not worthy listening to. And in doing so, has given the loudest fucking microphone to some absolute scumbags. So in the same way that Joe Rogan is buddy with your Ben Shapiro, your Alexis Jones, your Stefan Molyneux, Star Wars Theory has gotten into bed with Geeks and Gamers and Ryan Keatle and all of these degenerates who are out and out bigots, even though Theory doesn't say that shit, or at least he didn't used to. It was always about the dog whistles, the kind of like, oh, and again, these dog whistles, much like Rogan, where it's like, okay, either you're intentionally using this dog whistle or you don't know any better and you're falling victim to narratives, but
Right.
you're getting angry at the people who are trying to explain to you why the narratives you're engaging with are harmful. For example, Theory was one of the people beating the drum of, why are you making Star Wars political? Which is the most stupid thing you can say out loud into a microphone. So, okay, so is it dog whistles, or do you just not know any better? If you don't know any better, you're being irresponsible with your platform, and the fact that you won't listen to the people who are begging you to stop. There comes a point where I don't care if you don't know or not.
Yeah. At that point,
Now,
it's just
again,
ignorance.
what'd you say?
At that point, it becomes ignorance.
At that point, it becomes willful ignorance.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. So again, whatever you want to decide happened to either Neotos or Rogan, either one of two things happened. You either didn't know And in not knowing, you got too stubborn, didn't want to listen, and then allowed yourself to engage in this weird superconducting loop of radicalization. Or over time, you just realized how many people wouldn't stop watching or listening, and you just slowly started taking the mask off more and more. Until now, we have Joe Rogan gleefully spreading all kinds of harmful and frankly exterminationalist rhetoric about trans and queer people, disinformation about trans and queer people. And on the flip side, in the fandom world, you have Star Wars Theory, my buddy Neotos, deciding that he is going to start talking about the role women play in fandom in a completely unfiltered way. Real quick, I just got to say it, before we get anybody in the comments here trying to cape for Theory, trying to say that, oh, it doesn't matter who's making it as long as you make a good story. That is exclusively reserved to talk about women and talking about the fact that systemically Hollywood has been dominated by men. It has been a boys' club, and it has been a boys' club for a very long time. And when you're telling a story about what is basically the revival of a religion that is over and over again been tried to be snuffed out by imperialist powers, being restarted by a woman, maybe Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. I fucking always forget how I get tongue tied. It's that's a white person. That's an ignorance thing on my part. I also get tongue tied with this shit. Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. That with Chinoy, I think she's kind of the perfect person to tell this story. And we're also dealing with somebody again with Theory. And again, this is where we're going to cut you off at the pass before anybody tries to tell me that this is not a political thing for Star Wars Theory. This man, with his main account, left a comment on a video interviewing Andrew Tate, saying this is one of Tate's best interviews. When you have somebody saying that this is a great interview with somebody who is a known rapist and fucking human trafficker, you've lost your ability to feign ignorance as a fucking dude, bro. And we're not going to pretend that he does not know what he's saying. I have my bones to pick with Jeff Snyder and John Roca. Out of curiosity, I saw a video on his page. I couldn't fucking help myself. When I see him getting angry at the idea of the people getting angry at the backlash of all of this misinformation around what Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy had said, and we're going to get to that. When he's reacting to this video of Roca using language I don't necessarily think I would have used, I think that boiling down these conversations of men, toxic masculinity, to like find your balls and act like a man, yeah, at best you're leaning into like an enlightened version of toxic masculinity. The framing is still not good for anybody. However, Roca's heart was in the right place. And when Theory's reacting to it, and he refers to Roca and people who are angry at assholes spreading misinformation and refers to them as estrogenized males,
Yeah.
we've crossed the fucking Rubicon. Star Wars Theory is just as red-pilled as Rogan. And not to pat myself on the back, I've been comparing these two motherfuckers for like 5 years before either of them got this bad. And they have literally been on these parallel paths of getting worse and worse and worse as the years go on. So all of that said, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy has been criticized for saying that she takes enjoyment out of making men uncomfortable. Now, this comes on the heels of her being interviewed about but about the Rey Skywalker movie. And she talks about how it is a big moment that a woman gets to help shape Star Wars in this way, as she will be the first female live action director of a Star Wars movie, which is a pretty big deal, especially with a franchise and a fandom shaped by women, by Marsha Lucas, by Carrie Fisher, by all of the people behind the scenes who are too numerous to name. It's a big deal. And again, representation matters. Having a diverse group of voices telling these stories matters a lot. And frankly, with Star Wars, a franchise that has played it pretty fast and loose in the way that it handles the coding of its characters, or let me phrase that, how it depicts the portrayal of characters who are coded as Asian or Middle Eastern. This franchise could use a lot of fucking work. One of their, Middle Eastern coded characters kind of carried out a series of terror attacks on a fucking religious institution. And yeah, the Wrong Jedi arc in Clone Wars is really good. It's really fucking weird. Maybe not intentional, but really fucking weird that Barriss Offee, one of the two Muslim coded characters in Star Wars, carries out that specific flavor of terror attack. Am I saying that Dave Filoni is some, Islamophobic asshole? No, he's a fucking white guy from Pittsburgh. And guess what? White guys from Pittsburgh don't know everything about the world. We have blind spots and will accidentally step on rakes and create art that is unintentionally fucking insensitive. Need we talk about the really weird depiction of the Nimordians and the prequel trilogy? Do we need to talk about the bizarre anti-Semitic caricature that is Watto? I'm not saying there was any hate in the heart of George Lucas, but if there are more people in the room, people from those backgrounds, people who went, that doesn't feel right, you need to tweak this, that would not permanently be etched into the DNA of Star Wars. When you know better, you do better. So again, I say, a story being led by one of the most important characters in the history of Star Wars, Rey Skywalker, who represents a new era for this franchise, who represents a new era for the fandom and the way that Star Wars gets to interact with people of all backgrounds. Maybe not having J.J. Abrams or even Rian Johnson behind the wheel is the best idea. Maybe you let a woman tell this story. But this incredibly offensive statement of, it's high time a woman gets to shape Star Wars is met with this backlash. And then again, I want people to understand the timeline. Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy says, high time a woman gets to shape Star Wars. And then it is immediately followed up by, as a response, this clip that I want everybody to see. This comes from a 42-minute panel with Ava DuVernay, Meryl Streep, and Chinoy, moderated by Jon Stewart. I clicked the wrong button. There we go.
This is happening now. And so you are watching the lessons of, and it's a dramatization of the lessons of it. As an activist and an artist, do you make that calculation? Who is my target? You talked a little bit about, I want women to watch this, and I want them to feel empowered, and I want my daughter to have heroes. I couldn't help but notice a thread through each of these that the men were assholes. And I'm wondering, as one of them, what is the balance of activating a force for change, but also trying to permeate that patriarchy, that power structure? And is that a part of the calculation of your art as well? And what's been the reaction to that?
Oh, absolutely. I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable. Not you, just
Not
you
you.
know, not you.
Point taken. Point taken.
But it is important to be able to look into the eyes of a man and say, I am here, and recognize that. And recognize that I am working to bring something that makes you uncomfortable, and it should make you uncomfortable because you need to change your attitude. And it's only when you're uncomfortable, when you're shifty, when you have to have difficult conversations, that you will perhaps look at yourself in the mirror and not like the reflection, and then say, maybe there is something wrong with the way I think, or maybe there is something wrong with the way I am addressing this issue.
That is from 8 years ago, where she is talking about a documentary about a series of hate crimes committed against women where acid was being thrown in their face, acting in accordance with like radical Islam. And again, I'm not going to sit here in the imperial core of the United States and pretend that we are treating our women much better. Talking about how it's, all across the country, there are laws being bandied about that would turn this third world country in a Gucci belt into the fucking Handmaid's Tale for real. But that's what they're talking about. She is talking about men having to look in the eyes of how toxic and violating and violent patriarchy can be in the context of a documentary film that I believe she won an Oscar for. I know she's won an Oscar for a couple of her documentary films. I'm going to look that up here in a second. I want to make sure I'm speaking correctly here. I got to hold myself to the same standard. She's talking about a documentary about women being hate crimed with literal acid being thrown in their fucking faces.
Yep.
And the fact that so many of these fucking chuds have turned this into a conversation about Star Wars and how she's like, oh, I won't be giving my money to a movie that is designed to make men uncomfortable. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself to the people who have taken this incredibly, grimly serious situation and weaponized this verbiage into her saying that she wants to make men uncomfortable with her Star Wars movie. And then pretend that the very real issues she was talking about weren't the actual subject matter. And I also want to bring up, and this is something even the people who have fact-checked this statement have neglected to bring up. Can we acknowledge the fact that, like, I'm not saying that she's joking here. Can we acknowledge the fact that it's let in there with like a little bit of like self-effacing humor from Jon Stewart?
Right.
Again, I'm not saying it's a joke. And I'm not even saying that like it's okay because she was joking. Because what she said is beyond unoffensive. The framing here that she is kind of responding, in good humor. You can hear it in her tone that I really like to make men uncomfortable.
Yeah.
you know, is on the heels of Jon Stewart talking about Sharmeen making this movie and making this documentary for adult women and girls alike. And then he calls attention to, what do you want men to take away from this movie? Because the men who are being assholes and refusing to listen, the men who are fulfilling the fucking prophecy Jon Stewart set out 8 years ago, how do you want them to feel? To which she responds, I want men to be uncomfortable with the violent acts of patriarchy. Fuck you if that offends you.
Yeah, that's
I
like
have been
that's one of those
screaming and
things.
ranting. You talk while I fact check myself about
You're all
the
good.
documentaries and the Oscars.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, okay, yeah, it makes you uncomfortable. Like with like the actual like the documentary that she was talking about and like the events that take place in that and like what is being talked about in that project specifically. Um, that like that is 100% one of those things that like you watch and you are uncomfortable because you know that it's wrong and like you know that that's fucked up basically. Like I just like I don't know, like that's like the part that she was saying about like having to like look that in the mirror and like seeing like, hey, like I might not specifically. That's one of those things where like as a man in today's world, um, like you have to look at things like that that do make you uncomfortable and that do challenge. Like I don't even know about challenge, but like you have to be able to look at things that challenge like what you think you should be as a man and like your idea of a man and like how men should act and everything. And like you have to be able to look at those things and be able to decipher what's right and what's wrong. And like if you're watching something like that where it is like people being hate crimed and that makes you feel uncomfortable, then like congratulations, homie, you have a conscience that fucking works. I don't understand like what people get so mad about with this type of stuff where it's like, hey, like you should feel uncomfortable watching this, or like, hey, like you should take like a hard look in the mirror after like taking in this whatever media it is. But like that's one of those things where it's like you have to be able to digest things, and then in certain situations, like you have to be able to look at certain characters or certain stories or whatever and be able to compare them to yourself and like see like how am I going right or going wrong here? Like, I mean, I don't know. I was fucking raised by a TV. So like I've always been like trying to be have main character energy and be like the good guy in every story. And like that's just kind of how I've always aligned myself since I was a kid, just because I was like, oh, that guy seems cool and everybody likes him. So like I've always tried to have that energy and just be like a good dude.
Um, just to again get into the specifics here to make sure we had all the details right, because I got a little heated and zeroed in there. I'm reading from the Wikipedia article, but just so we all are on the same page. Saving Face is the name of the documentary. Saving Face is a 2012 documentary film directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy and Daniel Judge about the acid attacks on women in Pakistan. The film won an Emmy Award and the 2012 Academy Award for Best Documentary Short Subject, making its director, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, Pakistan's first Oscar winner. The film was inspired from the life of acid victim Fakura Yunus, who died of suicide in 2012. Did you hear anything about Ray fucking Skywalker in there?
Not a lick.
And again, I know I'm preaching to the choir right now. I know that the people who watch and listen to our show are against the side of using fandom culture and pop culture as a weapon in the culture war to radicalize people and gin up um, anger and hatred. But it just can't go without saying that like this is what has been flattened into She wants to make men uncomfortable with her Star Wars movie because Rey's a Mary Sue. You know, again, we picked up another subscriber in the last 24 hours. And again, it's my fun little game of, ooh, they have like I can see the people they're subscribed to just out of curiosity, how they make our way to us. And without fail, they're always subscribed to so many other like, you know, progressive or like leftist media outfits like the Majority Report or Some More News or whatever. So again, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but it needs to be on the record. It needs to be on the record. And I'm not, this is an impressive level of immaturity and irresponsibility and frankly malpractice of people with a following.
Absolutely. And if the same thing was done to a man in this aspect, where if like some dude said several years ago, like, hey, like I wanted to bring light to this situation to make women uncomfortable because of like something that women sometimes do or whatever. Like, if that got brought to light like now, and if he was getting like crucified for it, like these dudes would be like, "Oh, dude, she didn't mean it like that." They'd be the first ones that are like laying
Oh
down
yeah.
that fucking grenade.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, and that's before even getting into like, and I know you don't need to hear this, but I'm just again saying it for the sake of the conversation that like that's before even getting into conversations of like, oh, well, look at this shitty thing women do. And it's like, yeah, that's a byproduct of fucking patriarchy, my guy.
Right.
It hurts all of us,
Yeah.
you know? But
It comes full circle.
anyway, as I said before, 2024 is going to be the year of us no longer using kid gloves to handle these fucking grifters. And let this be the opening salvo of that. So, yeah. Guys, I'm really excited for 2024. I'm really excited for the Nerd Academy in 2024. It's I know it's come up a lot and it hasn't happened yet. I'm hoping that within the next month or so, we will have a studio set up again. And once that is a thing, expect video essays. I will be writing and recording them. Kason will be editing them because he is a much better video editor than myself. So he will be very much a part of that in collaboration. I have a couple things in the chamber, namely two like pitch outlines. One for Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2 and one for the Rey Skywalker movie and what I would do with it. Just my ideas off the top of my head. And they are connected, and I'll let you figure out how that is when it happens. So look forward to that. Again, once there's a studio space set up in here, I do plan to start streaming. Namely, I want to have it set up in time for Star Wars Outlaws so I can stream Star Wars Outlaws. I wanted to do that for Spider-Man. We weren't able to make it happen. And once I'm done with Outlaws, the next thing on the docket is I want to play some older games that I really liked, you know, kind of go through the stories. I want to do a Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 series of streams. Kason, since that's a multiplayer game, you should come over. We can tag team it. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And I want to play through both sides. I want to play the game because I am pro registration team Iron Man scum. Do a pro reg playthrough, and then we'll go back and then we'll do an anti-reg playthrough. I want to do that. We have I have a lot of plans in 2024 that I'm really excited for. I'm excited and so proud to have you guys, everybody who watches and listens and engages with us on the internet, here to kind of shepherd us through the process. So yeah, look forward to all of that. A little bit of it feels I'm coming down off of getting really angry there for a second, and I'm like, you gotta do the plugs at the end. You gotta do all that. It feels gross, but I have to deal with the plugs. Ionized Bastards is back. The first 2 episodes are out now of the new season. I don't say this lightly. Season 2, episode 2 is the best episode of the show we've ever done. I'm really happy with and proud of how well we know our characters now. Season 2, like I do truly think like with between Michael's thank you. I'm allergic to bullshit. Pardon me. I, Robot's a great movie. Using, I mean, I honestly think you could watch the first episode of season 2. Go into the second episode having not seen season 1. I do recommend you watch season 1. Season 1 was really good. I'm really proud of it. But season 2 is such a great way to get to know these characters so quickly. Everybody has a moment. I'm really, really, really proud of it. And I've started a controversy within the group because of it, because of something I do at the end of the episode. That when we first did it was like, oh man, that was so cool. And then we realized what I did was like kind of space problematic. Which I'll tell Kason about when we're done. I don't want to spoil it here. So go watch Ionized Bastards. It's on the All Rating Systems YouTube channel. Other things, Epic Confrontations. I have a match coming up against Brendan Marr, former First Class League winner or champion. So very excited for that match that's on the horizon. The faction I manage that Kason is in, the Wayseeker Alliance. The Bill or Claire Stribling of Imperial Senate Pod and Broaxium is going to be going up against Michael McCoy, the DM of Ionized Bastards. So represent Wayseekers. And then Travis Grossman, our very own Travis Grossman, has a exhibition match coming up against Kelly Knox, the writer extraordinaire, Star Wars pun master. She'll be competing in a basically our version of the Inner Geekdom for the Schmodown people out there. So he'll be in that match. I'll be on the desk for it. I helped write the questions. So that's going to be a very fun one to watch. And that'll have a number 1 contender match between Jerry the Cannon Junkie from the Bombad cast and Ionized Bastards, and Jane Dalton, who again is a Dragon Con trivia alum. So check all of those out. Also, there's no official announcement been made, so I'm not going to say anything, but keep your eyes on the comic book cast because you might be seeing me over there a little bit more than you're used to. So a little bit of sizzle, not going to say anything else. But yeah, Kason, where can the lovely people find you, brother? You're muted.
I am muted. Thank you. Twitter and Instagram at Craig Breezy. I also manage a deathcore band called Belphebeth. They're in all my bios and everything. Go find them. If you're on the East Coast, we'll be doing shows and stuff this summer. So come check it out if you're interested. Aside from that, you can find me here, right next to this guy.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, and since the Steelers are now in the playoffs, you can definitely catch Kason tweeting.
Yes. I basically tweet about Star Wars and sports, and that's pretty much it. Aside from the occasional like unhinged, I feel like being crazy on the internet today. Which those are fun too. I don't have that many followers, so like, they don't go anywhere.
I was on a fucking call. It was like Alden, Michael, Eli, and me. I don't remember how it came up, but I like very seriously said, and I quote, "The fundament of the Sith code is Mein Kampf," and which is not just not inaccurate. Like Drew Karpyshyn said, like he based a lot of like Sith philosophy off of Nazi Germany because that's what the Empire is based off of. Like it's all painfully obvious. Star Wars isn't fucking political.
Okay.
Yeah. Even your baby, the Old Republic. But and the way I was being very serious, but I said it in a way that was like accidentally funny. And I think that the phrasing of the fundament of the Sith code is like I think that was what made it funny. And then Alden was like, tweet that for $20. He's like, tweet that and make it your pin tweet for $20. And I made it my pin tweet for like a day, and then he never paid me. I was like, fuck you, Alden.
Right, never mind.
He's set me up for shit like that a few times. And I take it every time. I'm like Charlie Brown with that football, man. I do anything for the bit. But yeah, go follow Kason to for him to tweet about Star Wars and scream about football. It's
Or
a
just scream
shame.
into the void.
It's a shame Spencer couldn't be here because I could have made you guys fight.
Why is that?
Spencer's Bills Mafia all day, baby.
Is he? I didn't know that. I mean,
His family's from Buffalo. His family's from New York.
Okay. All right.
Like not like his mom and his dad, but like his like
like his extended family.
His dad's side of the family is from New York.
I got you.
So the Bills Mafia runs deep in the Simpson household.
Bills Mafia is just a bunch of wild motherfuckers. I can tell you that.
I think the Bills are my
on the field.
As a casual sports fan, I think the Bills are my second favorite team.
Yeah.
If for no other reason than when they win, they post YouTube poops.
Yeah.
And that is a good way to recruit me.
Same. It's really a lot of the NFL social media teams are actually really good. And they'll just like post some wild shit and you're like, you posted this on the team page? And they're like, it has like 3 million views, doesn't it? It's like, that's fair. Yeah.
There is something, I love to joke about like how awful brand Twitter can be. But like the NFL is sincerely funny with some of their tweets. Yeah. The teams of the NFL, I should say. But yeah, so go check that out. You guys find me on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552. Like I said, Comic Book Cast, watch that space. Ionized Bastards, Epic Confrontations, Patreon. Just a quick housekeeping note there. Obviously, the holidays happen. Spencer and I are planning on recording Kyle Katarn versus General Grievous next week, and then season 4 of the Versus series is over. At which point, I will begin planning season 5, and hopefully, the release schedule isn't a fucking nightmare, and that's my fault. It happened this season. But you guys can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, and on our website, thenerdacademypodcast.com, where if you're feeling generous, where the fuck is it every time? Well, first of all, go to thenerdacademypodcast.com. You can click on the student store link to get yourself some TNAP merch.
T-shirt, tpublic.com.
And if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon page.
Hey, give me $1.
Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus. Dave, you can tell it's been a minute because I can't find any of these anymore. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm awful. Keandre Lloyd.
Colin Provolone. Sir.
So good.
Feel yourself, Colin! Feel yourself!
This is me stealing myself.
I love Zach
Now-
Obama.
Oh, dude, he's so good. I was gonna say, now because you watch you're signed into my dropout. You got to start watching D20.
I have started a little bit.
You have? Which season did you start?
It was the Candyland one.
Crown of Candy.
Yes.
Oh my god, I love fucking Crown of Candy. So that clip that we play for Keandre,
yeah,
he's also a big Dimension 20 guy. So okay. Taylor got me into Dimension 20. Here's just real quick sidebar. Taylor got me into Dimension 20. It was right after her mom had passed, and she was like, I want to watch something, like, I want a comfort thing with you. I wanted to get you into this, but I really want to. Okay, cool. So we sit down and we start Fantasy High. And I was somebody like, I was like embedded on like D&D TikTok. Had never played, wanted to, desperately. Never got a chance to. And then, but saw all these TikToks. I knew so much about D&D. I hadn't watched it yet. I watched Dimension 20. I become fucking obsessed with it. And she right after we finished season 1, Fantasy High, freshman year, Michael McCoy was like, "Hey, I want to do a Star Wars RPG show. Would you be interested?"
Hell yeah.
It was like right after we finished. I was like, absolutely. So a little bit of behind the scenes thing. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on air. I know Keandre watches, obviously. He's a fucking patron. My character in Ionized Bastards, Fabian Martell, is named after Lou Wilson's character in Fantasy High, Fabian Seacaster. I just kind of Star Warsified the name Fabian because he was my favorite character.
Lou
so
is
yeah,
also very funny.
Lou is so good.
Very funny.
Have you seen the Survivor?
Yes. Yes. That's immediately what my brain went to.
Is it mine?
The Survivor.
Is it mine?
Like, can anybody do like the yell thing they do in Survivor? Lou's just like,
I was about to do it, and then I realized I was about to do the fucking Dune. I started to do it. There was a thing. Anyway, I'm insufferable.
Dropout's great. If you're not subscribed to Dropout, subscribe to Dropout.
Subscribe to Dropout. But yeah, no, we're making our way through Fantasy High sophomore year, and then tonight Fantasy High junior year starts.
Okay.
So I am trying to talk about junior year when it wraps up. Again, a little bit of sizzle for something I have planned. Other patron, as he said in the Discord, new name, new year, new name. So thank you to Paco, aka Chat GPT.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
And to our friend Ray Clausen, who asks that you donate to Equity Texas to help keep queer kids safe in the Lone Star State. Like I said, y'all, we're going to have some more coming your way this year. There's going to be another episode of Teen App coming out this week, kind of eulogizing the DCEU. I watched Blue Beetle today to catch up on the movies that I didn't see, and I'm going to try to sneak in Shazam Fury of the Gods, but I also might not because I really have no desire to see that movie. So we'll see if I have actually seen all of the movies in the DCEU. But everybody, thank you so much for watching. We'll be seeing you very soon. As I say, it's going to be a very big year for Star Wars, very, very big year for nerd culture, and a very, very big year for the Nerd Academy podcast if I have my way with it. So thank you all so much for watching, and may the Force be with you always.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar!